Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Thursday. Hope you saw my short little video I put up yesterday with regards to my little trip up in Connecticut, Torrington, Connecticut, the Barkin. I can't seem to keep the name in my head. The Barnstable River. It's has terrific trout fishing most of the time, except for the day I go there. Just one caught by one of the guys I was with, and it's a beautiful place if you've ever been to. I stayed at a place called Legends BNB, and you can find more information on that at legendsbnb.com. It's actually very easy to get to. It's not that far from New York City. It's only a about a couple hour drive at most. It's right up in this area here in Connecticut. If you're familiar with the area, you basically it's right at the very end of Route 8, which runs from Bridgeport straight north, and you can access Route 88 either from 95 or the Merritt Parkway or Route 84. It's a beautiful lodge, absolutely spectacular, reasonable rates, and you just basically go into the backyard. You're right on the river, and it's easy fishing. Just amazing. The river levels were too high because of all of the rain that we've had. Okay, so now we're back to normal. I have my sort of little day of rest, and we've got low pressure moving up the East Coast at the moment, and the result is that we have southeast and east winds, so temperatures are having a tough time today. We also have clouds that have moved up from the south. I'll show you on the satellite in a second. Temperatures at the midday hour are running generally in the 60s, which makes a whole lot of sense. You go inland, and it's in the low 70s. We're still not at the point with regards to the heat that's coming for later this weekend and for the first part of next week. So here's a satellite view, and there's the last. This is the last wave. We're waiting for this to go by to really start the process to warm things up in the eastern part of the United States. And the low is going to track mainly offshore, but the cloud line is pretty far to the west. It actually extends up into eastern Pennsylvania. You can see it here. It's moving northeastward. Then you've got a lot of dry air to the west, and you've got action coming into the western part of the United States, and this is part of that deep trough that the models are showing. You can pick out that trough pretty well right in here, okay, and it's moving inland. So, this trough is going to eventually establish the deep trough in the west and set up the big ridge in the eastern U.S. So some bit of a change here. It's one of these pattern flips that we've been seeing over the last many months that comes along. And here's the radar today. Really not too much action going on. A little bit of shower activity right in almost the geographic center of the United States, in Kansas into western Oklahoma. And you've got a lot of rain up into the Pacific Northwest and even into central California, getting drawn northward. And that is, again, being caused by the establishment of that deep trough out in the west. So here's how it plays out at the surface. So there's your low, and it goes northeast offshore. It doesn't bring any rain to the coastline, just the clouds. But once it pulls out, the whole upper air changes, and so does the surface profile. You have high pressure that begins to build off the South Atlantic coast, and the deep trough that sets up out in the west. So you get this very, very long west-southwest flow, and this is going to be bringing in the hot air over the weekend. We'll start to see the warm-up somewhat on Saturday, and when that warm air arrives, the GFS you can you see right up in this area here, shows this little area of showers going by. That's kind of a little weak warm front that's going through that will transition us over into the hot air. And of course, in the west, you've got all this action going on in the Pacific Northwest with regards to the changes that are going on in the western part of the United States. The high in the east really stays around for a while. And if you notice the isobars here, the lines of equal pressure are going pretty much from west to east. So this is usually how we get hot here. It also, at least initially, it won't be overly humid. It probably will take till Monday before the humidity comes up. Sunday probably won't be all that bad from the standpoint of comfort. But when you get this westerly flow, it tends to dry out the air mass a little bit. When it's more southwest, like it is out in the Mississippi Valley. That's where the humidity builds, and you start to get into that, I think, Monday and Tuesday. And meanwhile, you can see out west, we've got this rain and snow that it's being indicated with low pressure in western Utah. You get rain and snows in the mountains of the Sierra Nevadas in Northern California and on up into Oregon with some rain there. Kind of the remnants of the wintertime pattern they had in the west with these incredibly deep troughs that developed there, producing those mammoth amounts of rain and the drought-breaking rains that California had. So this high in the east kind of holds into Tuesday. It now looks like there might be right in here, and you can see it right there. There's a backdoor cold front. Here's a high that comes down into eastern Canada. So there's a bit of a backdoor cold front that tries to push through here. Looks like it might even be a little faster. Instead of coming late on Wednesday, now it looks like it wants to come late on Tuesday. You've got a fairly deep low that develops up in eastern Montana, so it brings some rain and snows that are out in the west over the weekend. They move into the northern Rockies. But that backdoor front is going to push southward, it looks like, on Wednesday, but it's kind of borderline. It's not really a big push. So the change in temperatures are going to be probably dictated by wind direction and how much cloud cover. I'm looking at this and thinking, you know, it may not be that Wednesday of next week, that Monday and Tuesday will be hot days, particularly Monday. And then Wednesday, it may not be as hot. But you still have, at least according to the new GFS model, you still have, you know, the dominance of that trough in the west. So you're going to start to go back to very warm and humid conditions. And this could also set us up for some maybe some showers and thunderstorms. There's not going to be much shower and there's not going to be hardly any at all shower and thunderstorm activity through Tuesday, other than whatever happens in a few spots Saturday night when the hot air arrives. But perhaps beginning later on Wednesday and beyond, we will see an increased chance of showers and storms. And when we look, I'll go back one run of the GFS model. It kind of shows that you really don't get a true push of cooler air into the eastern states right through next week. But in terms of the hot temperatures, it'll only be, I think, for the first part of the week. The rest of the time, it may just wind up being very warm and humid right into next weekend until a more important weather front comes on through here. And this is now Monday, June 19th, where we have a front here along the East Coast. By the way, there have been quite a few runs now that continue to show some kind of tropical storm development in either the Northwest Caribbean or in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. But I would just caution, as I have cautioned many times, we're going to be going into the time of year where weather models are going to try and spin up tropical storms at will, and virtually all of the time they're not real until they get inside the short range, and even then we have to be a little suspect. And it did it again last night. But one of the reasons why I'm not paying much attention to this is the fact that every run seems to push it back another 12 or 24 hours. So, you know, originally, if I remember correctly, you know, models were trying to actually show some sort of tropical storm development there at the end of this week. Then it was the end of the next week, the weekend. Then it was through the middle of next week. Now we're into beyond Father's Day here. So it keeps pushing it back 12 and 24 hours on every run. So you know what? I just mentioned this because you should be cautious when you see these tropical systems because, again, much of the time it's just model noise. They see lows, they spin them up, and that's what they do. You know, there was a time where, you know, these models, when they never really went that far, when they didn't go as far out in time as they do now. You know, their representations of tropical lows were almost non-existent. You could barely find them being reflected on the maps themselves. So when we look at the upper air, and I'll start with the new run. Since we have enough of it, we go out to 168 hours, which is a week from today. So you see how the trough in the east, you know, here we are on Thursday. This last trough finally pulls out, and now we are now into Monday. So we have a setup for hot weather. You have a very strong system out in the western part of the United States. You have a ridge in the east, although it's not a very strong one. The ridge is kind of flat. We were on the New York City area on up to southern New England, and southern Pennsylvania is sort of at the very edge of that ridge. The main jet stream flow is just to the north, so that's where the cooler air is. But the ridge is just strong enough that it's going to make it, hot, right in that area there that I just outlined. It's not one that flies all the way up into Maine and eastern Canada. Now, moving through next week, the persistence of that ridge remains, although the trough in the west kind of flattens out a little, and you get this westerly flow now running across from the west, from the Pacific, right into the middle and upper Mississippi Valley. And when we take a look at I'll go back one run so that we can take it out a little further. You see a little different here, a little more dynamic look on the older run with the low near Lake Winnipeg. Gradually, as we go through the past Father's Day, there is troughing that returns to the eastern part of the United States. Now, whether that stays that way or not remains to be seen. It looks like a more active jet longer term across the United States. So this would at least continue to suggest that when we see hot weather, that it will be transient, a day or two or three, at most 4, but it looks like 2 to 3 days, and then back to some changes. And notice here at the end of the period that there is ridging up in Greenland, so that, if that's the case, does support the fact that the jet stream will be displaced further south. And by the way, these here are reflections of tropical systems that the models are showing in the upper air. Again, going out 2 weeks in advance, it's noise, and I really wouldn't pay much attention to it. They don't seem to be impacting how the models behave in the other areas of the globe, but sometimes they can because of what is going on here. If it's not there, then maybe something else is not there upstream, although I think the upstream pattern is far more dominant, that the GFS is less likely to be, and all the longer range models are probably going to have less of an error going north than they are when they're looking at tropical systems. So there you have it in a nutshell, folks. We've got some hot weather. The last thing we'll do today, we'll look at some of the temperatures that the model's producing with regards to highs, and we'll put the 2-meter temperature up, and we'll back it up here. So this does not give, these maps give 2 p.m. temperatures every 6 hours. So we're looking at, I'll put up, I'm able to show you temperatures at 2 p.m., and you can maybe add a degree or two to that with regards to the highs. Now here's Saturday's temperatures. You can see some 90s down in Virginia, and it's upper 70s and low 80s across our area from eastern Pennsylvania into southern New England. So highs may be a degree or two more than that. And here's Sunday, where we start to see 90-degree readings in southern New England, a little expanding area of 90-degree readings to our south, and middle to upper 80s in between, which will probably be close to 90 in those areas for highs on Sunday. Now here's Monday, which again I think may wind up being the hottest day. We have lower 90s for low or even some middle 90s in southern New England and around the New York City area, and we also have hot temperatures here in Virginia, middle, and maybe even some upper 90s there. And here's Tuesday. Now the effect of the backdoor is showing up here, so we only have temperatures on Tuesday near in the low 80s in areas from northern New Jersey north and east. Again, this is going to depend on that backdoor and how much cloud cover, while it's in the middle 90s just to the south of that, low to mid 90s from southern New Jersey on down into Virginia. And here's Wednesday, and now we see the effect of the backdoor, because Wednesday we're looking at temperatures that the model has at 2 o'clock in the afternoon only in the 60s and 70s, while readings are in the 90s further south. Thursday, again, probably on the warm and humid side, but controlled, nothing outrageous. And then on Friday, as that next weather front perhaps starts to exert its influence out well to the west, and you get more of a southwest flow, you start to get back to some hot temperatures toward the end of next week, and the backdoor front backs up as a warm front. So Um, Monday and maybe Tuesday, maybe the models may be off on Tuesday. Maybe that backdoor is being rushed a little bit. So let's just say that, Sunday near 90, Monday and Tuesday into the 90s, and then after that we'll get a break for Wednesday and Thursday. It seems if this backdoor front can do its thing and sink far enough south, that'll at least cool off parts of the Northeast, maybe down as far south as central New Jersey and through east central Pennsylvania. Okay, have a great day, folks. Website posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com, Angry Ben on nycweathernow.com. And thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. Just hit the little red subscribe button and become one of the 3,000 plus subscribers that I have so far. We can keep growing this. And by the way, the more I grow it, the more I'll be able to do. I got myself a new tablet, so I'm hoping that I can actually do some of these videos in the evening as well as doing them earlier in the day. Once I figure out how the darn thing works, we'll see if we can get that underway. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.